master the underrated skill of core training. All right, guys and girls, I know core is a cliche buzzword in the fitness industry, but when I say core, this is what I mean. I mean abs, I mean TVA, the muscle under your abs, your obliques, your erectors, and then also your glutes. Because when I'm thinking about core, I'm thinking sternum to pelvis, meaning my whole hip girdle. And what controls my hip girdle the most? Glutes, meaning my glute max, my glute med, right? So when I'm developing a strength training program for a bodybuilder, for a athlete, for just your stay-at-home dad or stay-at-home mom, I want your core to be strong and powerful for a bunch of reasons. One, it looks cool with your shirt off at the beach. Two, it's going to give you the least amount of chance of getting injury. And then number three is it makes you strong as shit. Like, I'm just telling you, the individuals that I've trained that have really strong abs, erectors, obliques, TVA, they tend to be the most powerful athletes I work with on the squat, on the deadlift, on the bench press, hang clean, you name it, dumbbell rows. Because at the end of the day, this is the centerpiece of my physique. That's what ties my upper body to my lower body. And if your abs, erectors, obliques, TVA aren't strong, it's good. That's where it's going to break first. It's in the middle of that chain when you're trying to link upper and lower together. So something that I failed drastically on as a young bodybuilder is I thought, oh man, I have great abs because I'd had them my whole life. And I really believe that stemmed from having low body fat percentage. And then when I played football, we used to train the hell out of our abs. So they were always well developed. And then with your body fat being low, you could always see them. So when I got in the bodybuilding world, like abs were an afterthought. It was something that I didn't really put a lot of stock into. And then I got my first low back injury and I realized how weak they had gotten. So even though visibly they weren't an issue, meaning on a bodybuilding stage or posing, for example, they were weak and a weak link in my lifting. So when I'm doing barbell rows, when I'm doing deadlifts, when I'm doing bench press, when I'm doing squats, leg press, hack squat, where I have to brace my abs to squeeze, they were actually a hindrance to my performance. And then you marry that with having weak glutes, because I didn't train glutes directly, because in the time period that I came up, everyone said, oh, for guys, glutes are developed with squats and deadlifts, which I did both weekly. So I'm like, I'm good. And then I also did a lot of walking lunges because I wanted to be like Ronnie. So I wasn't doing the things you see me do here, rounded back hypers, glute bridge. I wasn't, which me personally, my structure and physique need those. I squatted and deadlifted till I was blue in the face. Should I deadlift it twice a week? I did hard either deadlifts or rack pulls on back day, and then I did RDLs the end of leg day. And that was even when I was with John. And that didn't develop my glutes the way they needed to be. And I needed to do a specifically targeted glute training. So if I look at that as a whole, my abs are weak, my glutes are weak, and then also I never had trained TVA in my entire life. I wonder when I had a back injury. I got an idea. So learn from me. So this video is going to be all about training all of those muscles to be your best athlete, to prevent injury, and then to look best on a bodybuilding stage or at the beach. Or when you get out of the shower and your wife sees you and you're like, oh shit, that's my husband. Fuck yeah, it is. So as opposed to, who is that lazy fat piece of shit? Like, he didn't used to look like that. Well, guess what? My wife says the opposite. He didn't used to look like that because I used to be a little skinny kid. Let's get into this and I'll show you the exercises that I'd recommend. All right, let's start with abs. And the first meat and potatoes exercise is going to be hanging leg raises. Now, I'm going to get a chance to show you 3 different versions. I'm going to do it with the straps where my elbows are in. I'm hooked in, I'm secure. I still have to balance my body front to back. So of these 3, this is in the middle in terms of difficulty. The next one is going to be hanging from a pull-up bar. So just grab one, hold tight, legs semi-straight, and then raise your legs up to where they're parallel to the ground. That's your second version. And then version 3 is we'll show a video when I'm locked in with the back and arm support at Elite. And again, with this, legs semi-straight, drive up, squeeze. Sets and reps there all day long, 2 to 3 sets, 10 to 20 reps. Now, moving on here, a crunch. And now you'll see me do this on a bench. You can do this on the floor. You can do this on a decline bench, or you can put the pad underneath your lower back to get an even bigger range of motion. All I'm thinking about here is fully shortening my upper abs. So making the distance between my sternum and my belly button get closer together, squeeze, contract hard, lengthen, stretch, suck your abs in like a TVA, and then contract. Again, I like this higher rep range, 2 to 3 sets, 20 reps total. All right, next, a weighted exercise. So of all the exercises, I'm gonna do a ton weighted, but I'll do at least one, and that's gonna be the cable rope crunch. If you notice here, I have a moderate load that's 125 pounds on the stack. Then all I'm doing to do is think about lengthen the abs, contract the abs. This isn't jerky, this isn't explosive, this is slow and controlled, this is with purpose. Again, with this, I like anywhere between 10 and 20 reps, 2 to 3 sets. Last thing to finish here for your abs, it's going to be a plank. So on both elbows with this, I want to think about squeezing, bracing my abs as hard as humanly possible and making them literally shake. Like if you squeeze your abs hard enough in this plank position for 30 seconds, your abs will begin to shake and quiver. That's a good thing. That's what we want. So 2 to 3 rounds, 30 to 60 seconds a piece. Now, transitioning into some oblique work. Now, I'm not going to do a ton of this because what I'm thinking about here is in bodybuilding, I want my waist here, not here. So if we develop that muscle, get it thick, it's going to drive it out, which is going to create an illusion of a wide waist, and we do not want that because the muscle is going to be extremely developed there. But I do want to be mindful of still making that work because at the end of the day, that's going to help prevent my spine from going left or right. And again, if I'm an athlete, I want to think about that being extremely developed. If you look at, say, an NFL running back or a linebacker or even like someone who does a lot of CrossFit, those obliques will be extremely developed. And that is to help protect their spine. So with the bodybuilding, we still want to train those muscles so they aren't weak, but also without driving them outwards. So plank, 30 seconds each side, 2 to 3 rounds. Then next up, if you look here, I have a D handle and I'm doing, this is an oblique crunch. So if you look here, like my abs are here, my oblique is here, right? I'm trying to get that muscle that connects. Now I know that's going to be super specific, right? I'm going to feel that right down the center of that line where those abs and the oblique connect. I want to squeeze. I don't want to get back towards the meat of like the flank, so to speak. I want to get that separation portion. So if Chads will flash up like when I hit a ab and thigh where I spike my quad, that separation in the development of my ab to oblique is extremely dug out and looks crazy on stage. So I credit those 2 exercises for making those developed, being able to show the detail, but without making my waist super wide, which would throw off my X-frame or taper. All right, now we're getting to some erectors. So with erectors, obviously we have deadlifts, we have rack pulls, both working extremely well at developing the absolute most barbaric strength on the planet, right? So if you can deadlift, rack pull 4, 5, 6, 7 plates, hell yeah, that's what we want. Rep ranges anywhere between 5 and 8, 5 to 10. I don't like to say it's really high north because I'd rather your form be spot on and perfect. Now, if someone has a lower back injury, we're going to start looking at things like barbell hyperextensions, as that is a extremely beneficial exercise. That's almost like, say, the preacher curl of erectors, in my opinion. So when you think about load up a barbell, a 35 or a 25 on each side, and then we're just coming up, squeezing those erectors. This absolutely annihilates erectors, glutes, and even a little bit of hamstring once you get deep into a set and you're really working hard. So the final piece of erectors that sadly most gyms aren't going to have is a reverse hyper. Now, I'm really fortunate to train Elite every week where we have a West Side Barbell Hyper, the best on the planet. Now, the difference here for me is a lot of people will load 3 or 4 45-pound plates on each side of this, and they just crank, where what John always taught me was put 2 25s on each side of the reverse hyper and then just crank 20 to 25 reps. And again, this looks super easy. You're like, oh, Chris, like you're barely having weight on there. Well, trust me when I say this, that destroys my erectors. And there's a video that Chaz and I shot not too long ago. Like I did that combination of erectors on the hyper extension to failure, and immediately went back there and did 2 sets of 20 on the reverse hyper, and I couldn't even stand up straight. Like it was miserable. I had to like purposely hang out at the gym for a bit because I didn't feel safe to drive home on the interstate. So that right there alone tells me that I'm onto something. I know that muscle is getting absolutely destroyed, and that's what I want. So again, the erector is going to be the backside of the antagonistic muscle to the abs, right? So of core strength, most people say core. They think abs. No, it's everything, guys. So if you draw a circle around my body from sternum to pelvis, that's what I want to think about. So the erectors are going to be on the back side of that. And a little fun note here before I move on to TVA. Dr. Brown, who's my chiropractor, swears to this day, like when I tore that erector, the reason my spine stayed still and I didn't get a herniation was because my erectors were so developed that it actually held my spine in place. Now, do I know for a fact that's true? That's what she told me, and so I'm going to believe it. So again, if you think about spinal health, guys, have those erectors fully developed. What I don't think about the erectors are like the guardrails on a mountain, right? So if you're on a road and you're going around a turn so you don't fly off the edge of a cliff, you have those erectors protecting. So the spine's in the middle of the road, and the erectors are going to be the barrier to the road. So pretty cool, like guide rails. So think about it that way, and that'll get you really honestly hammering your erectors with purpose and effectiveness, because it looks really cool when you like squeeze back and show a Christmas tree, but what looks even cooler is when you aren't injured. So take that little piece of advice there. Now, next up is going to be TVA. We're going to start here. If you watch my mobility video, and I'll get a chance to link it here, what I don't think about is I'm going to blow my stomach towards the ceiling to try to make it look pregnant. Up, out, and then we're going to suck in, hard, breathe, squeeze in, blow my air out. and hold. And you see that one rep, you can watch my shirt just slowly sink down, right? So I try to push my shirt out and then let it pull and sink in. With each passing second, I'm trying to draw my belly button towards my spine. So I'll show that again. So out first, look, make your stomach look pregnant here. And then now we're going to blow out and then suck in. Perfect. So that's variation one. Next we want to do here is I'm just going to lengthen my feet, lengthen my arms. We're going to do the same thing. It's big stomach. Now suck in and let it fall. On this, what I'm thinking about doing is taking my toes away from me, taking my hands away from me, driving my head back into the ground as well as my hips. So I'll show you that again. So arms and feet away, out with the stomach, in, now pull the vacuum. Push hard against the head, push hard against the glutes, just like that. Now, all right, so next, on all fours here. So what I want to think about here is I'm going to let my stomach hang and droop out. Now, from here, I'm going to flex down like I'm getting punched in the stomach. So crunch, you'll hear me blow out on the camera. There, now, in. And then try to make your belly button touch your spot. And then kind of hunch back as well. Oh, that is like literally, it doesn't matter how many times I do that, it's still miserable. So again, let my stomach hang, relax. Get punched in the stomach, crunch. Now suck in, turtle shell up, and then pull the belly up. Then final one here. This is an excellent exercise you could do anywhere. I've done this at every meal when I'm heating it up as a constant reminder to, hey, get that stomach in. I've done it against the wall in between doing sets of abs. It doesn't matter. I can do it braced on the machine or a countertop. So let me show you. Actually, you know what? I'll show you both. I'll show you bent over this machine and I'll show you on the wall. So with this, all I want to do is the same progression. Flex my abs like I'm getting ready to get punched in the stomach. Here, and then in. Suck in hard. Hard. Just like that. And then I'll show you bent over this machine here. So you can do this over, say, a countertop, anything I'm just going to brace and lean on. So again, I'm going to let my stomach hang. Now I'm going to flex it. Now pull in and up. Just like that. That, again, it doesn't matter how many times I do those. Those are hard and challenging, guys. So I know if you look, there's some really crazy, cool, classic guys and girls who can pull vacuums at any time. That is definitely not one of my strong points. It's something that I work on daily. And again, it's something that I have to purposely strengthen because if not, that ability goes away really quickly. So my ability to push my stomach out, pull it in, that is an acquired skill. And you have to do this daily or you won't be able to get that movement, especially when you're deep in the off season and you figure I've had 3 meals in me and a gallon of water at this point. I wouldn't be able to get movement with my stomach if I didn't have that ability or the strength within my TVA. So I really highly encourage everyone to do this daily, even if it's just simply with every meal like I was talking with. So if you figure you have 5 or 6 meals, you do 3 vacuums of 10-second holds while your food's heating up in the microwave, on the stove top, it doesn't matter. Make it quick, make it easy, but make it efficient. So do these and your TVA will be better. If you look at me doing these exercises, what I want to think about here is I know they're monotonous. I know they're tedious. I know it looks like I'm doing literally nothing. But when you do these right, they're hard. And every time I do these, not only does it feel like my abs are going to cramp, my hip flexors are going to cramp, but my mid to low lat is going to cramp as well. So if you do this right, and in the words of Dr. Danny, learn how to back breathe, this is going to just absolutely hammer the TVA, the transverse abdominis, and that's the muscle or almost a corset, so to speak, underneath your visible abs. So this is, again, is going to help protect our spine and leave us the most healthy, but also it's going to decrease the size or the appearance of our waist. So that when we hit, say, a front double bicep or a side chest, the stomach isn't blown out, but it's sucked in. And final piece here, guys, and that's going to be glutes. So if you think about the power of the glute, and I'm going to get him to show from the side here, right? So if you think about what makes them fire, right? So hips back, and then hips through, hips back, hips through. So you see that that simple motion of squeezing my glutes, and that's a standing top half of an RDL, the finishing portion of a glute bridge, the top of a rounded back hyper, all of that, I have to have that ability to be able to throw my hips through and then squeeze my glutes. And when I think about it, my glutes are here, folding them in on each other, right? So if a credit card or pencil was between your butt cheeks, we want to just make it eat it as it disappears and sinks in as you contract your glutes. So with this, the two main exercises, in my opinion, all day long will be rounded back hypers and glute bridge. Could you throw in like a machine kickback? 100%. I'm not big on or ankle strap kickback. I just think for most people looking to build explosive power, it's just too much play in that cable, and you can't brace well on it at all, and you can't create any general like force. So I'd much prefer like a machine kickback if you're going to do that, which is why I tend to lean towards a rounded back hyper, which you could load the hell out of that with bands, with a dumbbell, with heavy dumbbells, with a barbell. Or the main mass builder for glutes is going to be the barbell glute bridge or a machine hip thrust. All of those are going to work really, really well. So when I'm thinking about those are my probably 1 and 2, close 3 there. It's going to be an RDL, but you have to be really focused and work the glute, even though it's kind of getting worked secondarily, in my opinion, or in a combination with the hamstring so much, as well as the erector. So that's kind of a hamstring glute erector movement, in my opinion, as opposed to just a straight glute builder. So again, glutes, strengthen them. Think about keeping your pelvis stable, sturdy, not rotating right to left and going front to back. That's again going to help with maintaining core and your core strength. And there you have it, guys. Full on mastering the core, strengthening the abs, the TVA, the erectors, the obliques, the glutes. All of those creating a powerhouse effect will take your physique not only to the next level, but will take your gym performance and drive it through the roof. If you like this video, guys, like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, Chris Evans TV.